All right, 2 Kings chapter 9. Again, let's call this one fugitive to father. This time, let's call it mad fellow, as in this chapter, we are going to see Jehu anointed king over Israel by someone his buddies are going to describe as a mad fellow before they realize what he actually had to say. And so the beginning of the chapter, we're going to see Elisha send one of the sons of the prophets to go anoint Jehu king. And he's going to tell him some simple instructions: anoint him and run. So the young man is going to be diligent to obey the command to anoint him and run. And so one of the first things to note is, even though it seemed kind of odd to see that story of the man of God who was sent to Jeroboam, who was told to go straight there, do what you got to do, and run straight back, the tragedy of his story is he was persuaded not to do that. But praise God for both these stories and the stories of folks who have fallen in service to God, even though they might have fallen short in their personal walk. They, or even we, might live out an example of our personal failures helping others to not have to live through the pain of the same mistakes. And so for this young man, it doesn't necessarily say whether or not the experiences of that man of God going to Jeroboam stuck in his mind. But as far as this story goes, he had no trouble doing what Elijah told him to do and coming straight back, which sets off the change in leadership in Israel, understanding that Joram, king of Israel, otherwise known as Jehoram, but sometimes the names are switched in terms of pronunciation because some of these kings in Judah and Israel are going to have the same name. And so Jehoram, or Joram, king of Israel, has partnered up with Ahaziah to go to war against Hazael, who is now king in Syria. And Jehoram has been wounded in the battle and has now retreated to recover from his wounds. And after Jehu has been anointed king of Israel, the young man has pulled him aside from the company of the other commanders of the army to anoint him in private. When he reemerges, they're going to say, "What did this mad fellow have to say?" And that's until they realize that he has been anointed king of Israel, at which point they throw their coats before him and they ask him, "What's next?" To which he's going to reply, "Don't let a word of this leak to Jezreel, where Joram is recovering." So he is going to mount up, take a group to Jezreel, and as he is approaching Jezreel, those on lookout are going to let Jehoram know that there is a group, or there's a band approaching. And he is going to send a messenger out to say, "Is it peace?" To which Jehu is going to reply, "What do you have to do with peace? Fall in line." At which point Jehoram is going to send out a second messenger with the same message, "Is it peace?" To which Jehu once again is going to say, "What do you have to do with peace? Fall in line." And finally, not being able to get a response from the messengers, Jehoram is going to mount up on his own chariot, and Ahaziah is going to mount up on his, and they're going to go get word for themselves. "Is it peace?" To which Jehu is going to reply, "How can it be peace with all the dirt that your family has done in Israel?" At which point Jehoram is going to draw his bow and shoot Jehoram down. And as Ahaziah flees, he is going to command the archers to do the same thing. Jehoram is going to die roughly on the spot where his father took land from Naboth. Ahaziah is going to flee only to die later. And from there, Jehu is going to proceed on into Jezreel, where Jezebel is holed up. And instead of having to do anything himself, he simply calls out to the place where she is, "Who is on my side?" And basically a couple of her eunuchs are going to poke their head out of the window and throw her out of the tower. And during all this, Jehu is going to recall how during his service to Ahab, it was prophesied that his family would perish because of the sin committed against Naboth. And likewise, the mad fellow said that Jehu was to execute judgment on Ahab's house for the blood of the prophets, giving us a chance to see what we mentioned in previous chapters when we saw how the servants of both the kings of Syria and Israel were able to help those kings out of difficult situations. But without leaders who were likewise matching that level of integrity, the help could only go so far. Likewise, understand how the mad fellow can help us understand times in our life when folks are being dismissive of us, not because we lack credibility, but because we actually have it. Because understand, part of the reason why the commanders of the army of Israel that wasn't so much known for following God might have been dismissive of the man of God was not so much because he wasn't telling the truth, but because he was telling them portions of the truth that they didn't want to hear. But insofar as he told them that Jehu was the new king of Israel, they were all ears. And so understand that part of the value in begging God to help us maintain our credibility is that it gives us a level of stability and confidence that allows us to thrive, whether folks want to hear what we have to say or not.